Hi, thank you for joining our explanation of how to forecast ROI from SEO with a direct Excel model. Now, if you are trying to forecast ROI from SEO, you're probably struggling with a lot of things. You probably don't know how to account for the costs of SEO. You don't know when you'll see results from SEO. And you're probably frustrated by SEO agencies or execs telling you it will take 6 to 12 months. Or you're an exec yourself and you're struggling to communicate to your clients or your bosses or your decision makers exactly what the benefits of SEO are. So this is our chance to show it to you from a bound up perspective. Now, for a bit of context, my name's Aman. I'm the head of growth at New Optima and Alpha Well Brands, and I have a background in investment banking. And I'm joined today with Rob, who's our growth manager, who's worked on 50 plus SEO projects. So for context, Alpha Well is a house of consumer brands. We operate a bunch of consumer brands growing profitably, and we also have our own in-house growth agency. We offer SEO, PPC, digital marketing services, LinkedIn ghostwriting, Twitter ghostwriting, and so forth. So if you're looking for a digital marketing agency, you know where to find us. But beyond that, this is a bit of proof. And if you go on our website, on our case studies section, you will see there's a lot of proof showing that we know what we're talking about. We've been doing this for a long time. And I'm super excited to show to you exactly how we go about forecasting ROI from SEO, how our Excel model works, which you can get in the links, either in the bios or on our mailing list or on our website. And I'm going to walk you through in a few different sections. So to kick it off, I want to explain a bit about the model we're using. I want to explain the constraints of the model and the constraints we have to apply because of how difficult forecasting SEO is. Rob's then going to go through an explanation of how the model works. We're going to be explaining how to operate the model, which variables you can change, how do you change the numbers about such that you can see different results, and what are the natural phenomenon that come out as a result of using SEO as a growth channel. And then finally, given that we know how the model works, we know if we're going to get ROI, the natural next question is, who's going to do the work? So do you do it internally? Do you do it externally? What are the pros and what are the cons? I'm going to be communicating all of that very, very shortly. So let's first kick it off. Why is forecasting SEO so goddamn hard? It's a really interesting question. And I think about this problem by considering the man on the right of that string as like the CEO, the decision maker, the client, the person that wants to see the numbers quite easily broken out for them. And the guy on the left is the head of SEO or an SEO exec or someone that deeply understands the channel. And they think it's really simple on the right hand side. I think it's a straight line of string. And you're like, well, yeah, I'm just writing content and building backlinks, but it's a little bit more than that because the string gets very complicated. Essentially, SEO is a multivariable problem. And these variables are, I've listed maybe about, I don't know, 12 of them. It is by no means an exhaustive list. Everything from like how fast your page gets indexed, does Google crawl it, your domain rating, your site speed, backlinks, keyword intent, PR, like all these things on their own can change the course of your SEO journey. And they can speed it up or slow it down depending on the quality of the work or the results that you're seeing. So for us to forecast SEO, it would be incredibly hard to account for all these variables. So at New Optima, we've taken an approach to simplify the problem with our Excel model in a way that is quite good for us. And I hope it will be good for you too. So firstly, like my big caveat here is this model will theoretically always work. Like this is not me saying the model doesn't work. I'm saying it'll always theoretically work, but internally at New Optima, we have a much more confidence in the output if the following is true, i.e. we like it when these things are happening because it makes the problem simpler to solve. So number one, you're producing 20 pages per month. Why does this simplify the problem? Because more pages are correlated with more keywords, are correlated with more traffic, which correlates with more customers. So it's quite a simple correlation. There are lots of projects which don't create a lot of new pages. and they can also work. But for the purposes of this model, it's much easier to forecast if you are consistently creating content. Consistently creating content is like you stirring the SEO sand and interjecting your view on the world and giving things to Google to index, to play with, to rank. 2, Google will index pages within 7 days. This is a really important point because normally if you're a completely new site and you are working on a new project, maybe you just raised some VC money or maybe you have a new business idea, you're not going to see any SEO results for about 2 months. Like that's a fact of life. And the reason that is because you're sort of playing in a sandbox when you kick off, and Google does not give you all the benefits of the work you're doing. So with a lot of sites we work with, they're completely new. They don't have any real backlinks coming on. We start writing content for them, and then they're kind of flat. There's pages being indexed and they're crawled, or maybe they're not even being indexed yet, but the organic keywords is flat. Like nothing's really moving. And then suddenly in around month 2, month 3, stuff starts taking off and Google recognizes what you're doing. It's really hard to account for that lag time. 1, because we don't know if it's going to be 1, 2, or 3 months. We don't know when the indexing happens. We don't know when the keywords are getting ranked. So it makes it very difficult to solve for. So we'd like to deal with situations where a site is already existing and you know it gets indexed fairly fast. It's much easier to forecast the model. So if you came up to me and said, okay, can you forecast this for me? I'm a new site. I'm like, no, I can't actually. Not if you're a new site. I can forecast it if you're an older site, but this is because I have confidence in the output. Again, it's not to say that you can't do it, but for our perspective, we don't see it as very valuable. Number 3, targeting bottom funnel keywords. If you are trying to make money from SEO, you will very quickly realize that your top funnel keywords, so these are keywords that don't have much buying intent, generally don't produce any attributable revenue. I'm not saying they don't produce revenue, I'm saying they don't produce attributable revenue. The difference and the nuance between that is, if you visit a top funnel page, you probably don't buy in that single window shopping session and you don't make a purchase or you don't book a call. Generally, Google finds it really hard to attribute to first click or to an action that happened a long time ago. So if you're top funnel and you go a journey, you're probably not going to get the attribution, even though we know that that blog piece probably influenced their decision making, but you're not going to see it on analytics. You're not going to see it on an attribution tool. So if you want to simplify the problem even further, let's only look at bottom funnel keywords. Let's look at where the ROI is the highest and most obvious. I've seen studies where they've said that bottom funnel pages convert 25x more to top funnel pages. So that's the context of what we're trying to deal with. We're trying to remove top funnel. Top funnel brings a lot of traffic, not really much conversions. And then finally, 4, you've run Google Ads before. And it's really interesting. If you've run Google Ads before, you have data on keywords you're bidding on and how the market is responding and converting for those keywords to your business. So we can take that conversion rate data and plug it into our model. It makes the model a lot more accurate when we use real data from Google Ads versus using heuristic benchmark data. I've seen websites convert at 11 or 12% on Google Ads, but our benchmarks would put them at sort of 5%. So that's the difference we're playing with here. So that is the constraints of the model. And as you can see, if we look at all these 4 take out a lot of these issues. Like indexing, crawling, we've removed. Domain rating, we've removed. I'm always assuming in this model that your technical SEO is good because we do your technical SEO, so we'll fix it anyway. Rewrite the content, so the quality is going to be high. The quantity is solved. The conversion rates are solved. The keyword intent is bottom funnel. The domain rating is good, so PR, branded search, backlinks, they're kind of solved. Internal linking, we manage, it's solved. So you can see how this problem went from very complicated to very simple because of our confidence in both constraints of the inputs and also the constraints of how good we are at what we do. Now, in terms of the next step, we're going to give you an explanation of how the model works. This is the brunt of the presentation today. And then we'll go into whether we do SEOs internally or externally. So the XR model has 3 steps, and I'm going to show you step 1 first before Rob jumps in. Step 1 is understand where the money is. before you even begin trying to forecast how your SEO changes over time, you first need to know what's the total addressable market for SEO. And this is a bit funny. I'm talking about the bottom funnel addressable market. So the bottom funnel TAM. So what we do is we list out every bottom funnel page you could write. So for example, and you can find them in keyword structures, product for pain point, i.e. let's say product management software for lawyers, or you can say red sparkly prom dress under £50. Those two are examples of bottom funnel keywords that follow a certain pattern. And you can work out how many pages are in that pattern. You can list them all out, and you can propagate this mini sheet all the way across, and you can identify what's the maximum monthly revenue that you can drive from these pages. So that's the goal of the first step of the model. And we're now going to kick off with Rob explaining it over now.
So moving down to color and pattern plus clothing item, that's kind of self-explanatory. So blue trousers, blue chinos, black trousers, that sort of thing. Then we have adjective plus clothing item. This could be comfy trousers, that sort of thing. Then we have type, style plus clothing item, V-neck t-shirt, material plus clothing item. So cotton t-shirt, silk shirt, etc., etc. And then we can take an even more granular approach. So this is combinations. If you look up here, you can see the full cell. This is combination of product features where search volume is adequate. So if we can combine some of these keyword structures and we see their search volume, it would still make sense to create some collection pages based on those keywords. So for example, if we combine color with fit and clothing item, we could have black skinny jeans. Now, this type of page is more likely to, if we create this collection page, is more likely to rank than say just skinny jeans, as we're fulfilling the search intent for black skinny jeans. When someone searches that, Google's going to notice that and notice that page is more relevant for that type of keyword. So size plus clothing item, that's pretty self-explanatory. And then there we have two types of, these are blog pages here, right? So as we described, we're focused on the bottom funnel here. We're not so much focused on the blog, which is why we've grouped most of our blog into one section. The reason we have segregated outfit ideas and inspiration is because we think that could probably convert at a slightly higher rate than other blog pages. So it's a bit more bottom funnel or slash middle funnel. Just simply because if you have, say, the keyword summer outfit ideas, you could create a blog page which has conversion blocks using that clothes of the website that they sell. And there's plenty of opportunity for conversions there rather than a keyword which is more just topical and informational. So I hope that all makes sense. Again, feel free to ping in questions, but I'll move on. Now I've explained the keywords and now we think about the bottom funnel and the TAM analysis. I'm going to move through this and actually show you how we come to these figures and how we work everything out. So starting with pages, right? So there's two ways you could do this. If you're experienced with SEO and you've worked on projects before and you're well versed in the space, then you can do some basic research and kind of, you will have a rough indication of how many pages you could create per keyword structure slash topic. If you're less experienced, I would suggest being more detailed and being more granular with your search. And you could literally, so for example, for fit plus clothing item, you could list all the keywords that are associated with your products. And then you can really accurately say how many pages you're going to create. You only really want to create collection pages where there's adequate search volume. If Ahrefs isn't even showing that there's any keyword for it, don't bother with it. So you can be really super detailed here, or if you're experienced and you have a good idea of everything, feel free to estimate it, as ultimately the growth model is never going to be 100% accurate. But yeah, moving on. So we have words per page. Now, we know for collection pages, because we have a collection of products there which fulfill search intent already, we generally don't have to write as much content, but the content will help boost the page in SERP. So for these collection pages, we can roughly say there'll be around about 500. It's like plus minus 20%. For blog pages, it tends to be more topical, more informational, and requires us to write more content. So we can pretty accurately say, right? It's going to be around about 1,000 words / 1,500 words for the blog pages. And just a note here, any cell which is highlighted yellow and has blue text, that's where we've manually inputted the data ourselves. And any text which is white and black, this is where there's a formula. So obviously, when we move on to total words, the way we work this out, we multiply the amount of pages by the number of words. So we've now worked out how many words we need to write for each keyword structure. And then we can come to the conclusion of how many words there are overall to write. Then moving on to traffic. Now, this is where things get a little bit more tricky because we don't know where these certain pages are going to rank, and we don't know exactly how much traffic they're going to garner. But what we can do is, if you go on Ahrefs with certain keywords, you can see what the traffic potential is for that keyword. So what you can do is, now you've done your keyword list, if you've done it in super detail and you know how many pages you're going to create, you can also note down what the traffic potential is for each, and then just do an average, and then put the average, and this will give you roughly what is the maximum amount of traffic for that keyword structure. If you're very well versed in the space, feel free to estimate just based on your keyword research that you've done before. Then obviously we can work out the max monthly traffic by multiplying the number of pages with the traffic per page. And then we can come to the conclusion that we could generate, in a perfect scenario, around about 114,000 monthly visitors organically. Cool. I hope that makes sense so far. So moving on to conversion rates. Now, as Aman alluded to, it's great if you have data from Google Ads. Now, if you've just been testing Google Ads, you've only done it for a month, I would pretty much ignore that data because it's not going to give an accurate depiction of where your conversion rates lie. You really need to test for a while. So if you're going to do that, make sure you've been doing Google Ads and you have a good idea of what your conversion rates are. But we can take like the average conversion rate from a range of page. And because it's a very similar conversion path, we're typing in a keyword to Google, we're clicking on a link. It's very similar in Google Ads to how it is organically. This is going to be pretty accurate. So in this case, it was 2.5% for their collection pages. And then in blog, we know that blogs don't convert as well for a couple of reasons. As Aman again alluded to earlier, to attribute revenue from your blog is very difficult. Someone could click off the page and then go back to your website, and then you've lost the conversion path. You don't know where that customer came from. Whereas with collection pages, you know pretty much for sure they're going to make that conversion in that session. So in this scenario, I would say don't really go above 0.5%. We know from our data that like conversion rates tend to be around 0.3%. In this case, it will probably be a little bit higher for this keyword structure. Outfit ideas and inspiration, but there is some exceptions where the conversion rates can be higher, but we want to be conservative. We want to be realistic. So try not to go above that 0.5% mark. Cool. So once we've done the conversion rate, this is where it gets a bit juicy. So we can start to figure out what revenue we're going to generate and how many customers we're going to generate. So here to work out the monthly customers, we just simply multiply the max monthly traffic with the conversion rate. And now we can work out how many monthly customers for each keyword structure. And then now at the bottom here, we've got the total amount of customers that we're going to generate monthly. So from here, we then move to AOV. Now that's your average order value. So this is more for e-commerce businesses. But say if you're a B2B, it will probably be ACV, so average contract value. So just input your average purchase value here and then input it for all the sales. And from here, we can then work out what the monthly revenue will be in an ideal perfect scenario for each keyword structure, which gives us a total monthly revenue figure, which is in this case, 282,000. So from here, we now need to prioritize, well, what pages do I need to start with first? So the best way to do this is by creating an efficiency proxy. So this is this column here. So customers per 10,000 words. That's what we want to find out. to do this is probably the most difficult formula, but everything's very simple. You just need to divide your monthly customers by your total words and then times by 10,000. This will give you the amount of customers per 10,000 words. Then you use a filter on Google Sheets. You can filter, sort Z to A, and then it will, from top to bottom, it will have your highest priority to your lowest priority. Now, there will be a stage where you'll probably simultaneously write blog content and create collection pages, because there is a cap on the amount of collection pages you can create, obviously, because there's only, so many, unless you're like a huge marketplace, you're going to have some sort of cap there in an e-commerce sense. But we know that we should be creating these pages first, because these are going to generate us the customers for the least amount of work. So we're trying to be budget efficient here. Now, I just want to finish on quickly. We're almost finished up here, and we'll talk about the growth model in a bit. But this is going to change depending on what business type you are. So if you're an e-commerce business and you're only selling one product, then obviously your collection page is going to be limited, as you can't group products together. So this section here would have to be more blog focused, but really digging into the weeds and finding out, right, what blog pages are going to convert best, and trying to find the bottom funnel within blog. If it was a B2B business, it's going to be more relevant to service pages, et cetera, et cetera. But that's for you to work out with your own business needs. So yeah, I'll hand back to Aman now, and he'll go through some more slides.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That's like step one. Everyone who's watching, it's hard for us to know if you're gauging and you're getting along with it. Can we give like a thumbs up or like a little comment in the chat if you're okay with it, or if you have any questions at this point in time? Cool. +1. Perfect. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Before I jump back in, I have another interesting question to ask to everyone. Have you guys modeled out SEO before? Is this something new, or is this something completely off to you? Let's have a look. Oh, it's interesting, Rob. Can you see it, Rob? I don't think you can.
No, I can't see it at the moment.
Okay, I'll have to like tell you what it is. I'll tell everyone. But basically, let's say 30% have modeled out SEO before.
Interesting.
70% haven't. So it's like, and it kind of makes sense. I think we were in a similar boat, and know pretty much from the same reasons. Yeah. Yeah, Peter, Naz, there will be recordings. No worries. We'll share them around. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So generally, yeah, people avoid modeling SEO for these reasons. Cool. Thanks so much for that, guys. So next section is going to be on part 2 of the model. Can everyone see my screen? Rob, you can see it? Cool. So we understand where the money is. We know where it's working. We know what we should be doing first as an efficiency proxy. Now we need to know, how do we go from this is the total goal, which we could potentially reach, to how do we get there? So steps 2 is saying, how long will it take to get there? So a little bit of theory that I want to briefly run through, and it's how the customer acquisition cost changes over time for PPC versus SEO. So if you watch any of my previous webinars, you'll know I do talk about this. But essentially, on PPC, your customer acquisition cost, i.e. the cost you pay to get a lead, to get a customer, to get someone to buy your product, is always increasing. One, because the platform that you use, the ad platform, the CPM goes up over time. And 2, your click-through rate always decreases because your ad gets worse, it gets fatigued, your competitors copy you. On the other hand, your SEO CAC falls as a function of time, and it asymptotes to 0, i.e. like it's parabolically falling down. And there's no better way to show it than like a mini model. So this is like the baby model before we go into 30 rows with Rob. But let's say, imagine in month 1, you spent $5 grand on SEO. You got 1 new customer. So your cumulative or your total investment into SEO was 5K. Your total customers was 1. So 5,000 divided by 1 is 5,000. Let's fast forward to month 2. In month 2, you spent 3K on SEO. So you wrote some more blogs, you wrote some more category pages, you hired a head of SEO. You got some more customers. So in total, you spent 8K and you got 3 customers. So your CAC is 8/3. That's 2.5K roughly. And you can repeat that exercise for month 3. So when people say to me, like, how do you produce a CAC from SEO? I'm like, oh, it's actually really easy. You just do your investment over your spend, and it's almost similar formula to when you have PPC or Google search ads. Except in this time, your SEO investment is whatever you spent on content, and the numbers will look atrociously large in the first few months. They will look so big, and it will take 3, 4, 5 months for the numbers to become reasonable. And when I say reasonable, I mean to a number that's comparable to PPC, because in our heads, we think of CAC as the PPC number. That's just like what we're conditioned to think of. Consumer brands run at around a $30 CAC, for example. Health longevity brands run at about £100 CAC or dollar CAC. B2B businesses run at about a $3,000 CAC. Like, we have these rough feelings in mind. That's their paid click model. This is the SEO model. So I want to take a second just to explain to everyone, this is the graphs we expect to see. This is how a model roughly looks. And now we're going to go from five rows into 30 rows with Rob. And we're going to walk you through how we go from what happens in month 1 to what happens all the way in month 24. So Rob, it's all yours.
Perfect. Cheers, Aman. I'll share my screen again when you've...
Yeah, all yours.
Awesome. Perfect. Can you see that, Aman?
Yep.
Cool.
Nice
So
to see you. Yep.
Move to the growth model tab. Cool. So first, right, I'm going to go through this row by row and try and be super detailed, just to explain everything. So to start with, so we have a 24-month time period. So if I go across here, each column is a month, right? So we start from April, we finish in March 2025. So what we're trying to do here is we're now taking into account the variables of, a timeline, and we're taking into account the budget. So the budget here is, we're assuming in this model that the company is going to invest in SEO for 6 months, then stop. Now, of course, if you are deciding to invest in SEO and you want to invest longer, then you can build your model out however you like. You can go to month 12 or month 24. What will change here is your traffic multiples. They'll probably stay at, they'll stay at around a similar level to where it was at the peak, because you'll be producing more content. So before I go into the multiples, I want to explain these 3 cells here. So we know this brand is getting 2,000 traffic per month, which is this figure here. So I've manually inputted 2,000. But we don't want to take into account total traffic here, because not all traffic is generated from SEO. Some traffic is branded traffic, which will come from branded keywords. So for instance, if we're talking about Amazon and Amazon is in the keyword, then we can quite accurately say that person didn't come to Amazon because they didn't know the business before. They've come to them because they know the business. They've typed that into Google, so that we class that as branded traffic. Now, the way you can do this in Ahrefs is you can go to the top pages, you put your URL in, you go to top pages, and then you can see what keywords you're ranking for and what traffic that's bringing into the website. And then when you've figured out what your branded traffic is, you just add that all together from for all the keywords which is generating traffic. You add that together, and then you minus branded traffic from total traffic, which will give you your non-branded traffic. Now, this is what we're concerned about, is because this is the traffic which was generated from SEO, or we can say with a high degree of certainty it was from SEO. And the multiples are only going to be, to make it as accurate as possible, the multiples are only going to be applicable to the non-branded traffic. Now, this is where the model is a bit tricky, right? So how do we know how fast the traffic is going to grow over time? Now, it is very difficult to say, and we all know this in the SEO world, is extremely difficult to project traffic growth, and even more difficult to say month by month how quickly or slowly it's going to grow. So we do have to use, some intuition here. We can take into account a range of factors, such as the domain rating, how old the website is, how much traffic it currently has. There's a lot of factors come into play. But one trick that you can use to have a general idea is to find out what this figure is going to be here. So where are you going to land at? Like, what will be the total traffic figure that you will land at, is by going back to the Bofu traffic opportunity, figuring out, like, within this budget here, how much content can I produce within that budget? Then go back to the Bofu traffic opportunity and see, right, I can write this many pages with that. So, and then you can kind of accurately work out how many pages that you can create per month with that budget, and then use some of these figures here to then figure out what the traffic will be. So obviously we were talking about this was going to be maximum traffic. Well, it's not going to be, you're not going to rank #1 for that keyword straight away. And even if you do, it's unlikely that you would get that maximum amount of traffic. So what we need to do is, I would say, roughly say maybe like 10 to 20% of that figure. If you're a higher domain rating, it could be a bit higher. If you're a lower domain rating, probably be a bit more conservative, especially in the first few months of the model. But as I said, it is a little bit of guesswork here, and it's why it's harder. But what we're trying to do here is we're trying to see if there is an SEO opportunity. We're not trying to be 100% accurate, but it will give us, when we go down the model, we'll note that from the ROI and the CAC figures, we can then come to some sort of conclusion whether SEO is the right channel for our business. So let me go back to the model. So what this is suggested is, and I forgot to mention actually here, because we know what we're talking about with SEO, we've worked with many different clients, we know we can kind of say with a high degree of certainty how the traffic gain velocity is going to play out over time. So in month 1, we're not really producing any content, hence why there's no multiple and there's no traffic increase. We don't want to account for month 1. And by the way, that's why I've inputted 0 here, because I don't want to take credit for this traffic that we've generated here, because it wasn't generated by SEO. So that's 0 there. But we know that in the first couple of months, it's going to take a while for pages to get indexed. So there's going to be a slower multiple here, a lower multiple here. So in the first couple of months, then it's going to reach a peak where, you know, the amount of pages that we're publishing is similar to the amount of pages that are getting indexed, and we're getting a good amount of traffic. Then we stop investing in SEO. And what you'll see here is the multiple is slowing down, right? There's a lag here, right? Because some of the pages that we've written in month 6 and month 5 are going to start to index over these next months here. So we can say to a high degree of certainty that we're still going to be getting traffic after, and we can kind of map out this path. We know roughly that there's going to be, at the start, it's going to be lower, it's going to reach a peak, and then it's going to slowly drag off. Cool. So now we figured out the multiple, and we figured out where we feel the traffic is going to be, which is, you know, roughly, you know, 8-10% of the Bofu traffic graph, the Bofu traffic table, which we showed earlier. We now can apply some conversion rates and figure out how many customers are we going to get per month. So simply what we do here is we use a weighted average from the Bofu traffic opportunity tab. So if I go back here, we want to take into account, we don't want to just average the conversion rate. We want to be a little bit more smart about this. So because there's variations in the amount of traffic for each keyword structure and each different page, we need to use a weighted average to get a more accurate figure. So we can just use that figure, wrong tab, apologies. We can use that figure here. And then what you'll notice here is the conversion rate is slowly increasing. The reason we've done that is because when you start with SEO, your conversion rate will tend to be at its lowest point. As you progress, your conversion blocks will get better. You'll get a little bit more smart. You'll start implementing CRO optimization, and your conversion rate will slowly increase over time. So we're taking into account that as well. So now we figured out, you know, how many customers we're going to acquire over month on month. Now we need to work out the cumulative. So simply put, we have the SEO cost of month 1, and then we just plus the present month with the previous month. So over time, this is going to get to 30,000, and then it's going to stop when we've stopped investing in SEO, obviously. Cumulative traffic, same deal here. So we're going across. and the same deal with cumulative customers. The one thing I note here is I use a rounded formula because obviously so if I just go here and I'll just show you quickly, it's not going to be a whole number, but obviously you can't have half a customer, right? So we want to use a rounded formula so we can get to a whole number, which is why I use that here. All you have to do is like plus the previous cell, then put round and then brackets the cell and then 0 to indicate that you want a whole number. Cool. So now we've worked out the cumulative, we can now work out our CAC. And this is where it starts to get more interesting. So we've got NA for the first month because it's not applicable yet. We haven't, generated any customers. Month 2, all you have to do to work this out is just divide your cumulative investment by your cumulative customers to get your CAC. And as you will notice, as Aman was alluding to earlier, CAC is ridiculously high to start with. It could even be higher in certain models, especially with like B2B, the CAC will be huge. But then as time goes on, your CAC is going to constantly reduce. And the beauty of showing the 6 months then stop, it shows that, with SEO, you do, for the most part, retain your traffic, right? So over time, your CAC is going to reduce without even investing in SEO. And we see it lowering and lowering until we get to month 24, where it gets to 13. So now we've figured out CAC, we've figured out the traffic that we've estimated, we figured out how many customers we can acquire. We're now going to work out the ROIs. So we've inputted again here the AOV, and we know the revenue per customer. So this is just ROI on total revenue. We're not accounting for any margins here. And we see over time, we will start with total revenue here. So all I'm doing here is multiplying the AOV, the revenue per customer, by the cumulative customers, which gives us this figure from month to month. Then from there, we can divide the revenue from SEO with the cumulative investment to get our ROI month for month. And this is suggesting for this particular business will be ROI positive from total revenue in month 7. So this is eliciting to me that this is a positive sign for investing in SEO. If you were, say, it was like month 20, you're only seeing a positive return, then, maybe SEO isn't the right channel. And this is the beauty of the model. It's not going to be 100% accurate, as we've explained before, but we know that even if we're plus minus 30% here, say if it was month 20, if it's month 17, it's still, we know it's probably not the right opportunity. But say if we're month 7, we're saying it, but we were actually wrong by 3 months. If it was still month 10 and we were getting ROI, that's still positive for SEO. So we're not trying to be 100% accurate. We're just trying to, gauge where the SEO opportunity is. And then finally, we're going to do it from gross margin. So what is, after COGS, what are you going to get cash in your hand, right? So we've worked out from total revenue, but that actually isn't really a true indication of what you're getting in your hand. So simply what we do here is we get our gross margin, which in this scenario was 50%. We multiply that by the revenue per customer, which gives us £100. And then we do the same calculations as before to get our gross profit. And then we can work out ROI on gross profit. So this suggests that there's a 2-month delay for gross profit, which is really good. We're really happy with that. We're going to still see a return on investment in month 9, but that's cash in hand, right? After our COGS. So yeah, I think that's everything for the growth model tab. Yeah, feel free to pick any questions. There was a lot to go through there. So me and Aman will be happy to answer, but I'll hand over back to Aman now.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. So yeah, feel free, drop some questions in if that was, whatever was not confusing or confusing there. So general takeaway is you start from traffic, you work out how many customers that gets you in section 1. You then work out cumulatively, what's that investment to get there? What's the customers to get there? And then finally, from that, you can work out what's your ROI on a revenue level, on a gross profit level. So Gabriel, I'm going to share the model, of course. If you haven't got it already, you can very quickly enter your email on this link. I know we already have your email, but you can enter your email on this link and it will just ping it to you on an automation. That's probably the fastest way. So you go on that link and I'll just share screen now so you all can see. If you go on that link and you click there, you'll get your information straight away and you'll get the SEO model. It's a slightly different model to what we've shown you, but it all has it in one tab. It's a bit easier to read. Cool. Let's continue. When I want to go to what's step 3, I did say there was 3 steps in the model explanation. I'm going to share my screen and then go full screen. So step 3 is visualizing the data. This is a really brief example. It's not exactly what we're going to show you, but we've shown a big model. We've shown a lot of complicated things. What does that mean visually? Like, where does your CAC go? Where does your ROI go? Where does your customers go? And you're going to see 2 things happening when Rob shares it. You're going to see stuff going up and then stuff going down like that. So Rob, why don't you walk through actually, am I doing that bit? I can't remember.
I think you were doing that bit, yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm going to walk through and I'm going to show you how it works. So let's do this over here. So here's me sharing screen. Okay, so let me just zoom in a little bit. So there's a little summary over here. They've been investing for 5K for 6 months, then we stopped. So there are some brief numbers over here, but I want to show you the graphs first. That's more interesting. Okay, graph number 1. Traffic and customer growth. So your traffic is this blue line over here. And the traffic is going up from 2000 in month 1, which was a result of, all that total traffic that existed. And as a result of doing all that SEO work, it gets to around 10K in March 24. So it's grown a fair bit. We can then plot how they acquired customers. So this row over here, acquired customers grew as a result too. You can see it starts at 0 and it shoots up as it goes along. So that's the first graph you can show to visualize that model. And again, total traffic and acquired customers are correlated. The more traffic you have, the more customers you get, because we're focused on bottom funnel traffic. So this is a result. The way you see this graph is because we've decided to constrain the model in that way. The second really interesting thing I want to show you is this CAC curve. And this is the same thing I was trying to explain in theory. The CAC's really high in April. It's just ridiculously high. And over time, it falls and it's got that curve-like pattern. So it starts at £667. And over time, it falls across. And we're going into £30, £20, even £13. And as that one goes down, another one goes up. And that's cumulative customers. Cumulative customers exponentially rises and then goes in a straight line because we stop investing in SEO. And every month, we're getting more and more customers. And without investing after month 6, so after we're around here, after November-ish, you're still getting more customers and your CAC is still falling without you doing any work. And that's the beauty of an organic channel. You still reap the benefits. You still reap the rent, in other words. So this is a really interesting curve, which is great for showing internal teams and trying to explain to them how does this channel work? What are the benefits of riding through this pain at the beginning? And then finally, this is a very, very interesting graph. This is the revenue or the return from SEO. So she's basically saying ROI. So the red line shows your cumulative investment. So in total, you invest 30K up until around September. And then the blue line or the blue column is your ROI and the total revenue. So when Rob was showing this row over here, that's the blue line. And it's got a much higher ROI. And bear in mind that most ad agencies or PPC agencies or agencies in general will always show ROAS or ROI, and that's on your revenue. It's not on your profit. That's not cash in your hand. So a 1x ROI does not mean you make money. You actually have a break-even ROI, which might be 2x or 3x. Your break-even ROI is 1 over your gross margin. So we appreciate this by creating an ROI on gross profit. So this tells you like actually and genuinely, when do you make cash back? When is that cash hitting your account and you feel like, okay, look, the money I've invested, I've got back in my pocket. And that's that yellow curve. And you can see both differences over there. So this curve is like probably the most, I want to say, beautiful graph when it comes to SEO and this CAC 1 too, because it shows its dynamics. And this phenomenon, let's say, is existent for any organic channel. Think about growing your LinkedIn account, growing organic social, growing your Instagram account, growing word of mouth, doing podcasts. They all follow the same pattern where you invest a lot, nothing really happens, and then suddenly everything happens. And you just keep on reaping rewards and benefits. So anyone that's got a brand will understand how this feels. So that is a large section of how the model works. We've explained how it works, how to calculate bottom funnel analysis, how to project it, and how to visualize the data. So if any questions you guys have on the model specifically, this is your chance to ask it in the last few minutes. So Eugene, can you dive into ranking? What are the drivers? So it's kind of an extended discussion, but the drivers of ranking for SEO are all those things we showed off in that slide with the big furry ball. All these are driving factors. The one we like to care about most, again, in this world where you simplify everything, is the content quantity. That's what's driving the model. The more budget you spend, the more traffic you get. The more budget you spend, the more content you write, the more traffic you get. So that's one of the main driving factors, like getting ranking in the world where everything else is going well. So it's a bit of a nuanced answer, unfortunately, but that's the answer. After Dash, Lois, no worries. Thank you so much. Okay, for the last section, the last like 4 minutes. Oh, wait, actually, we got lots of questions coming in. Let's deal with those ones. How are you attributing and differentiating PPC versus SEO leads, especially if there's an overlap? Naz, great question. Attribution is so hard. 2 ways. One, you can attribute over Google Analytics on first click, and you'll get some data. And then 2, you can do it on word of mouth. So you can ask consumers after they purchase or after they book a call, where do they hear about you? We find that we get a lot of people saying Google for us because we do a lot of SEO. Robert, how much money should you invest? It's really hard. It's like, how long is a piece of string? That's what the model's there for, to work it out. Jonas, so what happens when you're a SaaS business, primarily blog posts and information pages plus collection pages? Correct. So SaaS is a bit different. They have these jobs to be done pages, let's say. But SaaS also can have collection pages. What if it was software for industry and you had like a collection of things, or you have pages that are such a like, I think ClickUp calls themselves project management, task management. There are lots of ways you can describe the same thing, or you can create categories around it. So there are always ways to find keyword groups that will generate you revenue, especially in SaaS. In SaaS, it's even more lucrative, if anything.
Yeah, I would say just try and find all the different types of synonyms that describe your product. You'll be surprised at how many, and sometimes people they'll have a keyword or a term which they're using, which doesn't necessarily describe your product exactly, but it will still be relevant and you can still take advantage of that. So you have to get a bit more creative.
Yeah, Robert, that's the money question, right? When should you expect to break even? Like, that's the whole point of the model. So you plug your numbers in, you forecast out, and you'll find a number. So that's the whole point of what the model is there for, to help you get to some rough understanding of what that is. So short answer, model it out, use our template, and maybe it's 9 months, maybe it's 24 months. It completely depends on your gross margins and the unit economic sense. For the last section, while we have the last minute, I want to talk to you about, should you go SEO externally or internally? So we see it done 3 ways, basically. Either you go in-house and you hire a head of SEO, a backlink specialist, etc. You go agency, or you go hybrid. For most businesses, they generally should go agency first. What that means is they should hire an agency because the in-house version is the most expensive to start. There's a lot of fixed costs with salaries and hiring. After you do agency, you go into your cheapest pricing model, which is you go hybrid, where you bring your own content writers in. This way, you basically don't pay the agency for the content writing cost, but you pay them for strategy. That's a really powerful place to be in. And then you come around and you go, look, I need to go in-house. I want to have devs, I want to have backlink specialists, and then you hire in-house. So a lot of our clients, when our contracts go well with them, we actually encourage them to go hybrid because they want to double down on the investment and we want to do it in the most efficient way possible, which generally for them is going to be hiring in-house writers. Or you go ChatGPT. You know what? ChatGPT is so interesting. We are like really playing around with it. I think that's like for a completely another webinar. Are we using ChatGPT? We are using it in some very, very specific scenarios. In 80% of scenarios, it's not good enough. But in some very specific ones, it's really interesting. Maybe we reveal those, maybe we don't. I don't know. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for joining this webinar. Please provide some more questions while you have it. We'll still stay on call. But otherwise, if you guys want to stay on, please feel free. We'll answer some more questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate everyone here. And we'll continue on.